What's up, guys? Welcome to the first official episode. This is going to be about the top 5 biggest ACL rehab mistakes or blunders that I see. We really focus and specialize on ACL rehab athletes, so high school athletes, college athletes, even older adults who had surgery and then, they're 3, 4, 5 months out and they're still dealing with issues. Those are the people we really specialize in, and I thought, what better way to start the YouTube series off than by discussing this topic, because it's something I'm so passionate about, and I think I see so many errors with this that it doesn't have to be this way. The reason for this video is for the alarming stats that come with an ACL tear. Did you know that 55% of athletes get back to performing at the level that they were before their ACL injury? Along with that, 30 to 40% of people who have an ACL tear have a re-tear or an ACL tear on the other leg the following year. Guys, these are alarming statistics, and it does not have to be this way. If you just avoid these 5 major mistakes that I'm going to list out for you, then you have a significantly reduced injury risk and a significantly greater performance ability after just 9 to 12 months. With that, I want to get right into it. All right, so the first one is trying to stretch your knee into full range of motion. So what do I mean by that is that the most common PT exercises given, the first one would be called a heel slide. So what someone does is they take a band or a strap, they bend their knee as much as they can, they hold that, and then they bring it back out. And then they hold that, and they bring it back out. And it makes sense, like in theory, right? It's like I'm trying to bend my knee more, let me crank on it. The problem with that is that we have a relationship in the knee joint between the bottom of the thigh and the top of the tibia, okay? When we bend the knee, there's actually a degree of rotation that happens at this tibia. This tibia turns in a little bit. When we fully straighten it, it actually turns out a little bit. So when we're just cranking on this knee, we're actually neglecting the rotation that's associated with it. The other thing we're doing is we're not realizing, this is really like a swollen, inflamed knee. We just had surgery on it. And so the last thing that I want to do is cause more inflammation, especially in a painful range of motion. What that's going to do is actually cause your brain to alert the body and say, like, hey, this is danger, I don't want this. And over time, it has more and more negative effects. Over 50% of people who get an ACL repair have arthritis within the next 10 years. Why is that? Is because we're not actually ever getting full range of motion. Our brain essentially restricts the motion and stops it from happening. So the same thing would be true about getting the knee completely straight. So the most popular, old school PT exercise would be called a knee hang. And so you put something under your ankle and then just let your knee hang. Okay, again, in theory, it makes a lot of sense. Gravity's coming down, we're gonna get a straight knee. Again, the problem, we're not addressing the rotation here that is associated with it. Again, we're also not addressing the fact that we have fluid in here, we have swelling, we have a fresh incision, right? So with all of those things, what do we actually want to do instead? So what's the fix? So instead, the fix that we use to get range of motion fast, I'm talking full range of motion before 6 weeks, is we use isometrics. So what we do, if you look right here, our hamstring muscle actually connects from the bottom of our pelvis, so like our sit bone, all the way to the back of the tibia. Okay, if we recruit this hamstring with a bent knee and hold that, what we're actually doing is using that hamstring to literally pull the knee into full range of motion. The best part about that is that's going to be your own body naturally mobilizing your knee, and it's going to be completely painless. I see so many posts about like crank days or how bad ACL rehab hurt. Like our athletes, they're not in pain when we rehab, because if something hurts, that's what the body telling us we shouldn't be doing this. We can get range of motion back really quick, and I don't have to crank on anyone's knee or put them through any type of stress. The same thing would be true with knee extension, right? So the quad comes from the front of the hip, it comes all the way down to the top of this knee here, okay? So we're gonna use quad isometrics and focus on actively pushing the knee straight so that we can control this, and again, it's not gonna hurt to get our knee straight. So quick summary on that, if I had to go order of operations, really simply put, I would say get knee extension first. The reason for that is we need the knee to be completely straight so that our muscles can relax and that we don't always have some bend in our knee. Right? That'd be exhausting to your body day after day. So I would say quad sets, I would bang out more than 20 at a clip. And then I would do hamstring isometric. So something like a bridge hold, or not even lifting. I would actually have my low back completely flat and just hold and get the hamstrings contracted. Here's what that looks like. So for the quad set, I'm just going to put something under the knee as like my target. What I'm going to do is drive that knee completely straight. I want to hold, get that quad contracted, hold for 5 seconds, relax it, go again. I want to do these ad nauseum. Like, you're going to do them until you're so sick and tired of quad sets, because that's just going to really set the foundation for getting the knee straight. And then to get the knee to start bending, remember we talked about where the hamstring comes from, the bottom of the butt all the way to the back of the knee. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to set my hips, because that's going to get the top of the hamstring. So I'm going to roll my hips underneath me, low back completely flat. And then I'm going to drive my heels down without lifting my toes, and immediately that's going to tighten up my hamstring. And I'm going to hold that, and I'm going to work on my breathing. So I'm going to go in through my nose, long breath out through my mouth. I'm going to do that for about 30 to 45 seconds. Same thing. I'm going to do them until I'm so sick and tired of doing them. And that's only step one. The second biggest mistake is using things like ice, massage, or passive modalities to get rid of swelling. Don't get me wrong, those things are definitely helpful, but it's never going to completely get rid of swelling, and I'm going to explain why. The knee capsule is filled with 90% fluid. Okay? The only way that we get fluid to circulate through the knee is full range of motion. So when we fully bend the knee, we get fluid in one direction, more towards the front of the knee, and when we fully straighten the knee, we get the fluid to go to the back of the knee. When we have full range of motion, it's like swish, swish, swish. That we're getting that fluid to flow through, and that's how it comes out of the area. If we don't have full range of motion, meaning we have restriction in either direction, fluid is going to stay stuck in the joint, and that's how you're going to have that chronic swollen knee look. I've seen patients come to me 6 months after a surgery, their knee is still swollen. Right? So overall, in the beginning, like ice, massage, compression, all those things are definitely helpful to start getting that acute swelling out of the area. But if you're still doing that, a month after the surgery, something is wrong. We don't have full range of motion yet, and that's why our knee is staying swollen. No good. We need to go back to the basics and get that range of motion full first. Third biggest mistake is creating compression through the knee and stiffening the knee too early. Confusing concept. Let me explain that as simple as I can. What I see with especially a lot of ACL repairs with high-level athletes is really like the rehab process tries to look cool and show them, like, look how fast we're doing these high-level advanced movements. And it's great. I love like a really creative exercise or a really challenging exercise. But the problem with doing it too early is we create compression in the knee. What does that mean? The heavier we go with weights, you have to create more force and rigidity in the body, right? Think about if you're trying to do a really heavy squat or a really heavy deadlift. What we're going to do is we're going to build up a lot of pressure in our body, and our body compresses to create stability in that. The problem with doing this too early is, back to my original point, you don't actually have that full range of motion yet, and yet you're creating stability around an already stiff knee. So again, first and foremost, we need to get that full range of motion back. That's going to bring the swelling down. And then at that point, that's when we can start going heavier and we can create compression and stability in that knee. But if I do it too early, we're going to have that chronic tightness where, like, your knee is strong and you feel like you can perform on the field or in the gym, but ultimately your knee always aches after because you still have fluid and you still have swelling stuck in that, chronic for years. Okay, that brings us to our fourth point. Now we have full range of motion, we don't have swelling, now it's time to go. The problem I see, number 4, is progressing too slow. Now we're 3 months into rehab, 4 months into rehab, and we're still doing the same exercises that got us to where we are today. There's an expression that's called "what got you here will get you stuck." Same concept here. All the low-level isometrics and range of motion exercises that got us where we are right now and got us our full range of motion is what's going to get us stuck and unable to perform at the highest level when we get back to our sport, because it was just not challenging enough, so it didn't prepare us for sport. Here at IDPT, we really pride ourselves on challenging our athletes. So most of our athletes tell us, like, a PT session is harder than their weight room sessions than when they were healthy. And the reason for that is we have to get you as strong as possible, as fast as we can, and then we have to get you ready to run and ready to cut and do all the things that you need to do to perform at the highest level. So we're doing a bunch of strengthening in here, single leg work, heavy activities, and then we're getting into running form. we're getting into cutting mechanics, sprinting mechanics, and then eventually it's just a full-blown training session, but you're still supervised by a doctor of physical therapy so that if anything goes wrong, any tweaks, any questions you have on form, making sure you're doing everything right, we're right here with you along the way the whole time. And finally, the biggest mistake, number 5, is clearing the athlete too early. I know everyone is going to hate me watching this video because they want to get back on the field as soon as possible, but the reality is the research shows that a minimum of 9 months of ACL rehab is required to get back to your sport and play at the highest level. As a matter of fact, the real recommendations are 9 months to 12 months. Yes, there are plenty of instances in which 6 months the athlete is back on the field, especially a professional. The reality is they're getting paid for this. This is their profession. And so as soon as they're even remotely good to go, they're back in there for contractual reasons. But ultimately, look at all those players that come back really early and everyone's like, oh, a medical anomaly. Meanwhile, you see their production dip way down. And that's because they don't have full range of motion. Back to our point earlier, they compress their knee early. So they're absolutely strong again, but I guarantee if you talk to them, they talk about how their knee ached for like 2 more years until they were back at 100% full form. And so, like I said, we keep our athletes for a minimum of 9 months because we can be absolutely sure that you have full range of motion, that you're strong, that you're explosive, you're powerful, and we talked earlier about that injury risk. You are well above that high re-tear risk or that second injury risk. All right, so just to review, 5 biggest mistakes for ACL rehab. Number 1 is trying to stretch your way or crank your knee into full range of motion. Number 2 is trying to use ice or other passive things to get rid of swelling. Remember, you can only get rid of swelling by getting full range of motion. Number 3 is stabilizing or compressing that knee too early, meaning we're going heavy and strengthening really hard before we even have full range of motion. Number 4 is taking too long, being 3-4 months into a program and not challenging yourself yet. Once we have full range of motion, we need to hit the gas, we need to get stronger right away. And finally, the last one is not getting back on the field too early. We talked about those injury risks earlier in the beginning of the episode. Those are very real, and that's the reason why. So I hope that this was really valuable to you. If you have any questions, comment below. Share this with anyone who's getting ACL rehab, and we hope we can help. So tune into the next episode.